How are you? My name's Brian. I'm recently retired and I give a shit. Our world is important, and I hope that for the next 200 or 300 years we live a wonderful existence where we have the ability to, cool and heat homes, go places, go to the store and buy things, and live a life that we're accustomed to. And also, at the same time, while we maintain a good quality of life, I want us to have a good quality of life for our environment. And over time, we have done things to help our environment. The Clean Air and Water Act back in the early 70s. You know, cars were producing carbon monoxide back then. And OSHA says that the limit for carbon monoxide is 50 parts per million. Guess how much they say the limits are for carbon dioxide? 5,000 parts per million. So carbon monoxide is definitely something we had to get rid of. Los Angeles, Peking, and all those places. Of course, they burn a lot of coal in Peking still. And so it's gotten better here in the United States, even though we consume a lot of energy. So I think one of our biggest problems today is the transport of goods from far away, overseas. The container ships, they use bunker fuel. Now, bunker fuel is like burning tires. You burn tires and it stinks. But when these ships that burn the bunker fuel get close to port, they switch to diesel so it doesn't look so bad. So you multiply that. What's interesting is 16 of these ships equals the pollution of all the cars in the world. That's just 16 ships. There's hundreds of ships out there, thousands of ships. Some of them aren't container ships. Heck, even some of the cruise liners use bunker fuel. As long as the wind doesn't sweep it down on deck and choke all the passengers out, I guess we're okay. So we got to do something about that bunker fuel and make people use methane, or which is natural gas, or diesel, or use the sail assist. The Japanese started that 20 years ago. Michelin's building sails. They're like wings that help the ships reduce the amount of fuel they expend, which would also reduce the amount of pollution they produce or make. So anyway, I'm glad that we did the Clean Air and Water Act, because one breath of carbon monoxide at 3% in the air, you're dead. So anyway, but carbon dioxide is a problem, and we do produce it. So I think cutting back on the shipping overseas and increasing employment in our own country would be a major blow to carbon dioxide. Now, another way to get rid of carbon dioxide is utilize it, as a resource. I got something, I'd like to call amplified photosynthesis. Now, you have power plants that use natural gas. When they burn the natural gas, they have stacks. And those stacks have high concentrations of carbon dioxide. Just what the, system, a plant would love to utilize. Well, you trap that in the big greenhouses and catch that with a large surface area of photosynthetic material, or living solar panels facing solar south. So now you've got some way to capture the carbon dioxide from these plants, from their exhaust stacks, and run it over a large surface area to absorb the carbon dioxide. And this large surface area faces solar south to catch large amounts of sun. And in doing so, you are able to convert carbon dioxide to oxygen on a more rapid scale, kind of like putting the system on steroids. Now, to supply the roots, you could use partially treated sewage water as nutrients. And then these panels, solar panels, would have a photosynthetic section, a section in the middle that produces wood in the Calvin cycle, and a section on the bottom where these hydroponic roots get the nutrients. Now you keep the wood cells in suspension and flush them through and get them over to some molds and produce lumber in a mold instead of chopping all the trees down. I mean, come on, we built atomic bomb in 1945 and we went to the moon in 1969. So amplified photosynthesis to utilize carbon dioxide sounds like a winner. Now, the natural world does produce more carbon dioxide than humans. But since the Industrial Revolution, the fine balance of production of carbon dioxide and other natural systems that have taken thousands or millions of years to say, hey, I'm going to utilize you and convert you to something else, is a fine balance of nature. So even though there's a natural production of carbon dioxide that's greater, to see this rapid increase is like something that hasn't been ever seen. And the levels, of course, haven't been seen in tens of millions of years, I guess. So it's something that the planet is having a hard time to adapt to. We still want to maintain, a nice quality of life, and I think we can. But we got to cut back on those ships. We got to utilize carbon dioxide as a resource. And I think use natural gas or methane. But when you're extracting it, use caution. When you're piping it, you have to have systems to keep things from leaking. Now, there's wildcatters that they'll go up to, the Dakotas, Wyoming, and Montana, drill oil wells when the price is right. And then, the price dropped. I'm going to bag it. I'm not going to be here anymore. I don't want to deal with it. So they leave uncapped wells leaking methane. Hopefully that's what President Biden is on his agenda to cap, because, I guess it costs thousands of dollars for each well, and each well leaks a methane equivalent of thousands of cars, and there's thousands of uncapped wells. So it might have to do with people being lazy. It's kind of like a fisherman. He fishes, and he's got this net that's just big enough to hold 3 cathedrals. Just gigantic. You got a floating line, a lead line, drag that, through, catch your fish. Some of them might be animals you don't want, bycatch or whatever. But then the darn net's worn out. Oh, heck, that's an awful big net to haul in. I think I'll just cut it loose before I get my new one. Well, sorry, Charlie. We need an international law that says you're not going to get a new net unless you're a brand new boat and it's your first net until you turn in your old one. There's more subsea plastic by far in nets than there is the plastic bottles that make a big eddy current and collection the size of Texas. So, it's there's another thing we got to watch. It's not just, people can need to take a little pride. Ego is okay if it's ego and craftsmanship, workmanship, doing things the right way. So I think methane for cars is great, and for buses. Now, as far as battery operated cars, that there's going to be mining everywhere from the Philippines to Nevada. Now, if they in Nevada, if they have these large areas where they kind of leach out stuff or separate things in large water ponds that are, humongous and many acres. And it's like, if they don't leak a bunch of crap into the groundwater, I don't have a problem. But the thing is, a car that's running on a battery, guess what? You got to charge the battery. And we're talking 40% of that charging is going to come from natural gas. 20% of that charging is going to come from coal. Maybe another 15 or 20% from nuclear power. Another 10% from wind power. Another 3 to 5% from solar. And of course, the solar takes coal just to make the panels, and it has, a life expectancy. The batteries have a shorter life expectancy. Heck, You know, I remember 20, 30 years ago, these were lead acid batteries, but some company in Canada, a little company, I guess, you know, when that sulfuric acid starts coming down the stream, oh, our fish are dying. Well, why didn't you neutralize the sulfuric acid with some alkali? You know, oh, I didn't want to hurt my profit, you know, so, okay, whatever. So there's going to be trade-offs. We want the best trade-off, and we need conscientious people. Now, the methane hydrate that's north of Alaska in shallow waters, 200 feet, 300 feet, maybe even 100 feet, you know, maybe up to 500 feet. We're talking, this was old plankton that died millions, tens of thousands to millions of years ago, and the sand settled over and they died, turned into sweet crude and also natural gas. But when the natural gas got under the sand, turns to sandstone and pressurizes it with the heavy weight of the earth, then some of it escapes through the cracks. And you know, when you have something under high pressure that escapes, it has a refrigeration effect. That's how we work our air conditioning and refrigerators, by having a compressed gas escaping to a lower pressure, and it just chills. It's a fact of physics or something. So as it chills and comes out the fissures under the bottom of the ocean, it pulls in water and turns it to ice and captures the methane or natural gas in a cage of ice, actually under a pretty concentrated form. But anyway, the ice is stuck to the bottom. It's kind of like, you know, you ever have an ice cube that's kind of stuck to the bottom? You pour in your drink. Oh, I wonder why that ice cube doesn't float up. Well, it's attached itself, and the conditions are right for it to stay frozen and stay on the bottom of the ocean. But with global warming, you know, depending how long it takes, there's going to be sections, and there already, of course, there are sections. It just depends on the rate of flow that melt. So the molecular methane hydrate, which is natural gas trapped in a cage of molecules of ice. You can watch it on, you can burn it with you can light an ice cube on fire, you know, look it up on the internet or whatever. But anyway, when the water starts warming over there in the shallow waters north of Alaska, it'll start to melt, and then it'll bubble to the surface. And now we really got some global warming going. So let's use it. And as a resource, and a good way to do that was is with a special vehicle that can go in there like a sea snake, maybe a mile or two long sea snake, an underwater submarine that's a train. And as a train, the individual cars would need to break off and settle down and process it, whether you're injecting carbon dioxide to displace the methane, or whether you're going to, you know, like the old snow cones when we were kids, we used to push the ice cubes in top, you know, whatever method scientists think's a great way. But you know, you can't just pipe it to the coast, because the icebergs will scour your piping away. You know, you can pipe stuff from North Alaska to South Alaska on land, but you ain't going to be piping offshore from north of Alaska to the shore, because your pipes are going to be scoured by the iceberg. So we're back to some of the ideas, only I got a better idea than the ones, you know, you got to have something where the front engine can go like a sea snake, and every single trailer follow behind exactly, so you don't bump into icebergs and the keels of icebergs. So that would be a method to, you know, a mechanical method to move large amounts of the methane hydrate, you know, scavenge it and use it as a compressed gas of methane. There's also some sweet crude up there. So I think that would be something that General Dynamics and our government might have to be involved in, not people like these guys that go up to, you know, the Dakotas and drill wells. Oh, the price is wrong. I think I'll just leave the methane gassing out. Or, you know, I'll just cut my net and let it go. Or I'll drag my net along the bottom and ruin spawning grounds. You know, I think we can get a lot of energy. We're still on a fossil fuel. We can't just go into chaos. So we got to do it without destroying, but we got to also conserve. Like on a short run, do you need a 2,500-pound car to get 25 pounds of groceries when you can have a little chromoly tubing bicycle-like thing with bicycle wheels, a little drill motor size battery and a motor and pedals, but we don't have the infrastructure. You go on the sidewalk, you're going to knock all the pedestrians. Get out on the street, you're going to get run over. But if it's only a 10-minute drive to the store and you can get your 25 pounds of groceries, you got some exercise because you do this, and then on the hills you engage the little motor and battery. So I think we can reduce, and we can also, those big ships don't need to be coming when we need the people working here. The darn ships are the biggest contributor to global warming. Even though we don't produce as much as nature, but we've thrown things off balance. So we can't just get stuff from overseas, and we got to start taking care of things here. And I think we can produce and utilize carbon dioxide from these natural gas plants and produce wood products and not fill up our landfills. Hell, if you had a styrofoam cup made of something natural and it decomposes normally, like a popcorn kernel or that's been expanded, or balsa wood type of thing, that's great. It would be making things the way nature makes things, and I think we could do that. So and then there's other ways to do photovoltaics. It doesn't have to be solid state. I got an idea too for using something that's similar to gases in a neon light, but not allowing it to turn to light, but just by draining off the electricity from the photons that are focused on a linear tube and a trough mirror collector. Anyway, it would be another way that's old school in a way. Stuff that was, people discovered things in 1890 about ions and electrons, and some of that can be used too, in a little different way. I mean, we produced the old cathode ray tube televisions from some of their stuff, and the central atmospheric monitoring spectrometer. It's just a means to, on the submarine, we used them to find out what the different levels of gases were by ionizing them and deflecting them in a pattern that was kind of like a spectrum, and through mass spectrometry. So deflecting ions, this could possibly be another way of, without having to melt so much glass, without having to add arsenic, germanium, and some of the toxic chemicals that we use just to allow the photosynthesis to take place. I don't think you'd need as many doping materials. So there's always a plus and a minus, but we got to get the pluses lined up a little better and have our environment so we can have a nice 200 or 300 years until we figure out anti-gravity, until we figure out fusion. But just to go wham right through all our resources and produce all this crap faster than our planet can take it, no, we got to get ahead of the power curve. So anyway, I hope I'll throw out some drawings and we'll take a look at some of my ideas, and I'd love to hear other ideas, and I hope that we can go forward on this. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.